Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Color Gemstone Academy. I am your instructor, Paul Deasy, and this is my YouTube channel, and it is called Paul Deasy Gemstones. As always, I would like to humbly ask all of you if you would be so kind as to subscribe to this channel. Now remember, subscribing doesn't mean you have to pay for it. These are all completely free for you, but it allows me to do these free for you the more subscribers that I get. So please subscribe if you can. I do appreciate that. Well, this is going to be episode 23 from our question and answer series. Now, I really love this segment. We do this every Wednesday afternoon in the United States, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Why do I like these so much? Because I'm getting feedback from you from the various lessons that I'm doing on my YouTube channel. So sometimes it's a question about a particular gem or a treatment, or sometimes it's just a comment. Sometimes you just want to say, hey, I enjoy the lessons. And sometimes you might even catch me in something that I said incorrectly, which can happen from time to time. But let's get into it. And by the way, if you see me looking over to my left, it's because I have all of your questions printed on my laptop, and then I read them to you, and then I give you the answers off the cuff. The first one this week will be from Viola Vincent, and this is from episode 65, which is our most recent gemstone lesson on Iolite. And she says, thank you for another brilliant lesson, Paul. I love Iolite, but I've always been confused with the difference between Iolite and tanzanite, but not anymore. Well, that's one of the things that I really love about doing these lessons and being in the gem business for as long as I have, and being on the shopping channel business as long as I have, is I like to kind of demystify the gem business and make it very easy for everybody to understand. I want to simplify these things, and some people might look at Iolite and tanzanite and not know that there is any difference whatsoever, but that's why I'm here. And remember, if you've never watched any of these shows, or you never saw me on a shopping channel, I like to say one thing about the color gem business, that if you forget everything else I've ever said, remember this one fact. Color is the single most important defining characteristic of a color gemstone. It affects everything, the quality, the rarity, and ultimately the price of that gemstone. So I used to always have fun asking the hosts that I work with on the shopping channels when I had my own line. And I say, what's the 3 most important things about a color gemstone? And they would sometimes be confused by the question, but the answer is always the same. Color, number 2, color, number 3, color. Color is the most important thing. So that's like an example of how I like to simplify things. I hope that answers your comment. Okay, our next question this week comes from Judy Frye. She's a fan of the Color Gemstone Academy YouTube channel. She also happens to be a fan of the Sunday Fun Days with Paul and Judy on my wife Judy Kroll's Facebook page called Judy Kroll Style. And we do a Sunday Fun Day every 1 p.m. noon Eastern Time on Sunday. So you can all watch that too if you like. We just have fun with that one. Anyway, she asks, Paul, are you still making jewelry for the Gems on Vogue website, which is actually gemsonvogue.com? And that's a great question, Judy. And the answer is no, I am not. And there's no more sinister reason than I just find myself too busy with all of the social media that I'm working on. And I remain very good friends with Michael Valatutti, who was the primary guy on Gems on Vogue. That's his brand name. And David Hennick, who's the owner of the company that makes the jewelry. We remain on good terms, but I just was spreading myself too thin. I am working on some other opportunities with jewelry, and when I'm at liberty to discuss them with everybody here in the audience, I will do so. But I am not affiliated with the Gems on Vogue website anymore. Thanks for the question. Okay, next up on the questions is from Andrea H, which is, I guess, a little bit more of a comment. And this is from episode 17, which was a lesson on one of the phenomenal gemstones called labradorite. And Andrea says, years ago I saw lab, meaning labradorite, on HSN and thought, so what? Since I've been making my own jewelry, I've gone crazy for labradorite. My favorite is faceted and then coated in silver. The shine, the sparkle, the color is fantastic. Big fan of labradorite now. Well, Andrea, I'm sure that you know this. I could not agree with you more. I've been a huge proponent. I love and if you haven't seen the lesson on labradorite, you all should look at that. It is a phenomenal gemstone, and it's actually not even that expensive of a gemstone. It used to drive me crazy in the early days of the shopping channels when they would really have such inferior pieces of labradorite where you didn't see that labradorescence or that schiller that we talk about. And I started to do some when I was in my own line, when I was on Shop NBC, as it was called at that time. And I had to literally fight with the buyers to allow them to have me bring in a piece of labradorite. And they wouldn't do it. So I finally put my foot down and said, just try one. If you don't love it, ship them all back to me. You'll get your money back. And it was a ring, a labradorite with a beautiful, labradorescence. It became one of the most popular rings ever, and then we started to do labradorite from that point on. Andrea, you also mentioned something else which uses a technique that's very similar to what happens in Jersey that they call chemical vapor deposition. It's where they heat an element to a very high temperature, and then it creates color on a gemstone, and it gets deposited on that gemstone, and that's how they do that with Druzy. Well, the same thing happened with an experiment with beads, faceted beads in labradorite, where they did that chemical vapor deposition with a rhodium plating, or they called it a silver wash. And you're right, it was a game changer in the labradorite. I'll try and find a picture of one because I don't have any on my person now, so that others can know what we're talking about. But it really is a spectacular way to enjoy labradorite. Great question. All right, so our next question comes from another sort of familiar name. His name is Sarma L, and this is also from episode 65, which was the lesson on Iolite. And he says, an informative explainer on Iolite, Paul. When you start your impersonator gem series, I guess he likes that name, the impersonators, please discuss different treatment options applied to the gems such as Iolite and tanzanite. Thank you as always. All right, now this is a really, really great point that Sarma brings up. And so this would be not considered an error per se, but an error of omission, because during that lesson, I didn't cover the treatments, whether there were treatments or not on those two gemstones. So I'm going to remedy that right now. I neglected to mention when talking about tanzanite, tanzanite is routinely heat treated. That's how they get some of that beautiful blue color to show itself. Remember, the potential for color has to exist in the stone. The treatment just helps to bring that to the surface, and that's exactly what the heat treatment does with tanzanite. However, conversely, the iolite is not heat treated at all. And there's a reason for that. First of all, most of the color is there and they don't have to do that anyway. But certain gems have a lower melt point when exposed to high heat. And that's an example of the iolite. In other words, if they tried to do excessive heating, like they do some gems like amethyst to create citrine, or the blue that you see in the tanzanite, if they tried to do that with the iolite, it could damage or melt the stone. So not only is iolite a fantastic impersonator of the gem tanzanite, but it also has no treatments to bring out that color. It's completely natural. Really, really good question, Sarma. I missed some of your good, tougher questions, so keep them coming. I do appreciate it. Okay, next question on the docket is from Rebecca K. And this is also from episode 65, which is the iolite. She says, thank you for sharing your vast knowledge of gems again, Paul. I couldn't resist, and I must confess that I have she says fable. She must mean I have an interest or weakness for Viking folklore. I found a rough 22 karat iolite in Thailand via Etsy that will soon be mounted in a piece of jewelry. I love to combine nature's beauty intertwined with the mystic metal setting. The two should be a unique source of energy. Well, that is a fantastic, fantastic statement. I'd love to see that 22 karat piece of rough that you're having fashioned into a piece of jewelry. It sounds like you're not going to facet, but leave the crystal in its form. So it should be something that's both beautiful and hopefully mystical and calming for you. Thank you for participating in our question and answers, Rebecca. Great one. Okay, next one is short and sweet. This comes from, it's a comment from Rob Rabbit, also from episode 65 on the Iolite, says, another brilliant, very informative video. Thank you, Paul. And you're quite welcome, Rob. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for getting such great comments and questions from all of you out there. So keep them coming. All right, I think this will probably be the last one. I try and keep these under 20 or 15 minutes, and I do go on a lot. But this is another one who somebody pointed out something that I might have been misinformation on my part. So I want to acknowledge that. This comes from Illario 89, and this is from episode 34 back a ways. It was a great lesson on what's called organic gemstones, those things that came from a living plant or animal. And Illario says, thank you, Paul, for the video. I might have to point out that amber is fossilized tree resin and it's not tree sap, as you stated in your video. Sap and resin are both produced by the tree, but they're different substances which serve different roles. Amber is the fossilized resin of tens of millions of years ago trees, and that's why we often find insects coated in amber, because they got trapped inside the resin of the tree and not the sap of the tree. And mea culpa to Illario. You're absolutely right. For a long time, I used those words interchangeably, and it's incorrect for me to do so. So you're absolutely correct. The sap of the tree is the sugary part that's inside the tree. The resin, when something gets cut on a carnivorous tree, it's that kind of yellow resin that comes out and envelops whatever mosquito might have been, or bug or plant or animal life, and then covers that, and then millions and millions and millions of years later you get a piece of amber with that yellow color with that specimen inside. So you're right, I should not use those terms interchangeably, but I do that sometimes out of habit. So I do apologize for all of you for any of the confusion that I might have caused with that. Well, that's going to do it for this particular question and answer series. We'll do this all again next week with more of your questions, so keep them coming. I try to get to as many as I can, but I'm getting more questions than I have time to answer for. Remember, if you've not yet subscribed, again, please hit that subscribe button. I want to never have to charge any of you for doing these lessons. I love to do them for free and share my passion and have a great dialogue with you. And the more of you subscribe, the more it helps me to do these for you for free, because it allows me to monetize in other ways. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on the Colored Gemstone Academy. Bye-bye, everybody.